passed away around 45 days ago from the date of posting this story. About a month prior to his passing, he had a visitation in his dream during the night, and he told me about it the next day, that his passing is approaching and I need to be ready for it. Across the family, we are known to be pretty straightforward and not waste time with anything, any situation. So, he just mentioned that his Taiji, his dad's elder brother, visited him in his dream last night and mentioned that he is here to take him and he should get ready to depart on the next journey. It was my first time with someone sharing such a dream experience with me, and so it took me about 2 days to prepare my mind for what was coming. My father was passionate about his bikes and he sold them off right away as he was sure that the end was near. He had all kinds of medical complications at the time, and yet he had an extremely positive mindset that humors fate. The old age episodes of losing balance and falling down started. He was so overweight that I needed assistance of at least 4 others to get him up, and no other members of the family were in the country. I had informed them of the end being near and they were in process of booking their tickets. However, their arrival wasn't scheduled for another few weeks. I had a difficult 2 to 3 weeks period with cleaning him up, picking him up after he had fallen down at odd spots, and so on. Regardless of everything, he liked to enjoy a drink or two in the evenings, and there would always be 2 to 3 empty chairs in his bedroom. Each time that I would enter his room, he would be talking all the time, often throughout the day, and when I would enter his room, it would be uncomfortably cold, his body temperature also unusually cold. He would mention that these 3 people came over to see me, all ancient relatives who passed away several years ago, and he would ask me to cook a certain dish to serve them or prepare tea with a specific recipe for them, as they liked it in that way. The visitations were scary at first, and eventually I got the hang of it, as there simply was no one else around who could take over my role here. During this time, I was the only one in the family around my father, so there were times when I had to call an ambulance to get him on life support, get an attendant to take care of him, who would escape at times, as taking care of an elderly is a serious care task, be at home, go to work and try to be sane in all this. Fast forward, one fine evening, my father had his evening tea and was sitting out in the backyard, and I came inside the house to answer a phone call, and it was my sister from another country. She told me that she felt a sudden release of weight from her spine and told me to check on Dad. I did, and the tea was spilled on the floor and he was no more. About 30 minutes later, my sister called again. She lives on another continent, and she told me that Dad is in pain as his arms are lifted upwards and I should lower them down. Apparently, his arms were upwards just as I went to check, and I was spooked. I was unable to lower them with any force I applied. They were stuck in that position. Later that night, my sister called again that Dad is extremely uncomfortable now, to ask the whereabouts of his body, told her he is in the mortuary freezer and the cremation is the next day. We went forward with the cremation and necessary religious procedures all in the same day. The next evening, my mother received a call from my father's cousin brother's phone. His cousin brother's wife had called to inform that the brother just got hospitalized. They live in US, and the brother is repeating the same words, that Alan, changed my father's name, is here to take me and it's my time to go. So the brother's wife had called to speak to my father to reconfirm that he is indeed alive. Likely that my father's spirit visited his cousin brother, let's call him Jake, to get him on the next journey. Jake's family mentioned their side of terminal lucidity and how he was speaking of Alan as he was right there, in a chair, in the hospital ward that Jake was at. By the weekend, Jake passed away as well. Now their other sibling, cousin sister, let's call her Anna, she lives in the UK. She went to Jake's funeral, recently, and called my mother up, already spooked with Alan and Jake's passing, to tell her that both Alan and Jake visited her in a dream as she took a nap on her flight to visit Jake's home for his funeral. We spoke to Anna in the previous week, and recently her family informed us of her deteriorating health. She is alive for now, and they mentioned that she brings up Alan and Jake in her conversations frequently. We'll keep you posted in the comments. Now when I look back on the period of my father's passing and all that we went through, it just feels unreal, and as I never thought I was strong enough to go through all this done all by myself. During one of the religious procedures after Alan's passing, it was announced that we should only remember the past person in high spirits and during celebrations and not in sorrow, as then the spirit may get stuck in this world and haunt everyone for life. I don't know how they know this. It is quite openly communicated, announced on a loudspeaker. To align with it, we did not share the news of his passing with anyone yet, and do not plan to either, to ensure his passing is as peaceful as anyone can ever imagine.